All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope your week's been going well. Hope the weekend have some exciting plans. Hey, at least tomorrow you got some fights on the screen. 4 Eastern, 13 fights, probably about 7 hours of violence. I'm super pumped. 100K up top. Please tell me we keep 13 fights. So far, majority of fighters have weighed in. Nobody has missed weight yet. So fingers crossed, man. It feels like an eternity since we've had 13 fights. And talking DFS, this is one of the better cards I think you can draw up. Only one favorite over minus 300. Interesting main event, but one I think you can get away a little bit. A lot of closely line fights. Again, 13, the bigger the number, the better, the more combinations out there. Yeah, maybe name value-wise, top to bottom, not the best. But, man, I'm pumped for this one. 11 straight weeks on some fights. And before I throw it to you, we also, our man, Primetime DFS, giving away a monthly membership. Just like our guy Peterson giving away 3. Primetime DFS wanted to give one away. So shout out to you, my man. We will pick a random winner on this show. I don't know exactly the best way to do it right now. If you have any thoughts right now, Marley, I'll throw it to you. But if you have thoughts, think of it. Otherwise, we will come up with something in the beginning of the show. But how's it going, my man?
Good, man. I would say maybe just throw a comment in chat. We'll scroll through, pick a random one at the end or something like that.
Marley will pick one at the end. So throw in a random comment, any other words. Marley will pick one at the end. Again, shout out to you, Prime DFS. What's going on, though, Marley?
Yeah, man, excited for this long stretch of cards. This definitely isn't my favorite card, but I do think it's a tough one and one that we can get different a lot of ways. I also think that all 13 underdogs could win on this card, and it wouldn't shock me, to be honest with you. So the favorites are the tough part for me. I'm definitely fine leaving salary on the table on this card, though, but excited to talk it out with you. Hopefully we find a way to ship it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you for sure. All 13 underdogs, wouldn't be surprised about any of them. Ownership, I think, will be, so looking at our ownership numbers right now, all of the stuff is pretty much done. The ownership's not on the site yet, but I will say we only have 3 fighters above 40%, and that's Roman Dolidze at 42, Imavov at 41, the 2 main events, obviously, and then Themba Gzimbo at 41%. So I think it's definitely going to be spread out. And we only have, one in the 30s range at or 2, Renato Moicano and Molly McCann in the 30s, what I'm seeing right now. So, yeah, ownership definitely going to be spread out. Trying to see where you have Stolyarenko, 23%. All right, so everything will be up after the show, fight rankings, tier rankings, Marley's rankings. We got our projections, ownership, of course, cash report, GPP core report, everything you need in MMA. We got the slate info. That is free. Breaks down the odds, the inside, the distance lines, etc. Of course, in the Discord, a lot of sharp people in there talking fights as well. No better time to join. Don't join yet, though, because if you're not a member, you do have a chance at that free 1 month. I would wait for that. And then if you do want to join, you don't get that 1 month. You can check it out. NBA going on today. Nice big slate. NHL going on. No NFL this week. Still got Showdown next week. A lot of fun times. PGA going on right now. Very excited. Very exciting time of the year, no doubt about that. Before we go fight by fight, 13 to talk about, we got to say hi to people in chat. Ben's in here like always. Hope you're doing well, man. Nate D, Lone Wolf, Red Scott, Whaler's in here. Apex known for dogs barking. I don't know actually the numbers. Definitely don't know the numbers. Nothing off the top. Yeah, nothing off the top of my head says yes or no. When I see Apex, I just know I favor wrestlers a little more. Because it's easier to grab them, get a hold of them, like a Sean O'Malley type. Much rather fight at a bigger cage than he would in the Apex, especially like someone against Aljo. So just little stuff like that, but doesn't change my thoughts too much. Mark's in here. Whaler again. Randy did make weight 170. Or Roddy. I thought you were talking about Randy Baum. Rude boy Randy. Roddy. I think you're talking about him. If you're talking about someone else, but Randy Brown did make weight. Who?
Rodriguez, maybe?
Oh, Pete Rodriguez. He made weight at 170 as well. Maybe it is Rodriguez. Ross K, Sean Sullivan, Eddie in here as well. All right, enough of that. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out. We appreciate that like button. If you do want to join us, shippingnation.com, weekly, monthly, 6-month, and annual packages. Let's talk some fights, though, big man. Bottom to top, like always. Again, a very fun and interesting DFS card. Excited to get your thoughts here. First card of the night, the big boys, baby. Thomas Peterson, Jamal Poges. Minus 163 is Peterson. Jamal Poges plus 143 on the way back. Looking at the inside the distance props, minus 115 for this fight to finish. Peterson plus 140 inside the distance. Jamal Poges plus 475. Peterson 8,700. Jamal Poges 7,500. Throw it right to you. Take this one away.
Yeah, I think we're starting off with one that I want in more lineups than I don't have it. But Peterson's going to be my preferred play here because I just think he has more of a ceiling with his aggressiveness. He's one that actually wants to hurt his opponent, where Poges just seems fine point fighting his way to a decision. But I think the early success goes to Peterson, and he's not really a great wrestler, but he is a powerful, strong guy. His entries aren't the greatest, but once he gets a hold of his opponent, I think he is able to get most of them down. And then once he's in top control, that's where he does his best work. And I think he could finish in the first round and put up a big boy score, or even a second round finish from him, I think would be 100, maybe more points. But he is plus 140 inside the distance. That's a little bit over a 40% chance of finishing. And that's kind of where I see my ownership being, just kind of around his ITD line. Because if he gets a finish, I expect a big score, 10x or more. And if he wins a decision, my worry would be that he gasses out, maybe even loses the third round, and just doesn't do enough points to get there in a decision. And then that also puts Poges in play. I think he's going to be the better boxer here. He also has wrestling upside, but I don't think that'll be as much early in the fight. I think that would be when Peterson starts to slow down. But Poges also doesn't do a whole lot when he gets his takedowns, where Peterson's trying to finish his opponent. Poges is fine just laying there and just grinding out time. So I don't love that. I'm fine getting a little bit of Poges exposure, but I'll probably be around field weight, maybe even underweight on Poges. And I am guessing I'll be overweight on the Peterson side. He's a risky favorite, but that's what I like about it. GPP only. I don't really trust him in cash games, but I think he's a good GPP leverage play in this one.
Yeah, we see it a lot in the same. So we got Peterson at 29%, Poges at 15%. I mean, we're talking Poges at 15%. Some of my fades down here is like Vivian Araujo. I'm not really going to get there. I don't like Muslim Salikhov much. We'll get to that main event, but I got a little hotter take there. I think I'm going to be underweight on the fight and play some of these like first four fights we talk about. I guess that's kind of broad slate right there. A lot of these mid-tier fights to kick it off, Quinones of the world, Stolyarenkos, the Lees, the Petersons, all lower owned than that main event for sure. So I'm going to hope some of those outscore them. So I'm naturally going to have these this fight, but Poges at 15%, I'm fine with. Peterson plus 140 inside the distance, like you said, almost 40% mid to low level heavyweights. It can get sloppy out there. Again, both guys I consider primary wrestlers, but if it's on the feet, it's going to be sloppy. We just saw Jamal Poges get outstruck, 96 to 35 or something like that to Mick Parkin. Who do you think has the cardio advantage? This fight starts the third round.
Well, Poges, just because the one time Peterson went to the third round, he gassed out and got finished. Yeah. Where we have seen Poges go 3 rounds at least. So I have to side with Poges there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I'm definitely on the Peterson side because I like his upside way more. Like Poges, even if he wins and he somehow can stuff the takedowns, like I could see him scoring like 68, 75 points in a win. But at 15%, he's going to be pretty low owned down here. In terms of money line value, plus 143 isn't bad at all at 7,500. Talking big boys heavyweight. So I'll have some Poges, but Peterson is the preferred play. Chasing the upside there. If he does get on the mat, does get it on top, definitely can finish that fight. So yeah, Peterson for me, I like. So I guess I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Of the Stolyarenko, Mados, Builder, Peterson fight, rank those in order of your favorites.
Oh boy.
Because they're all priced right there. The reason I'm asking Big Marley, again, the main event, 8,600, 7,600, going to get a lot of ownership. Why I'm kind of going to these fights, 8,700, 7,500, minus 115 to finish. Madero's 8,500, Quinones 7,700, minus 135 to finish. Stolyarenko 82, Carolina 8K, minus 125 to finish. Zhang Yang Li, Blake Builder 83, 7,900, minus 140 to finish. All of them are going to be lower owned than that main event, all slightly favored to finish. A lot of them are cheaper too. So how to get different right away? My whole slate overview, man. This show could be 10 minutes, game theory, if that.
Well, I'll give you my ranking, and then we can just talk about them when we get to the fights. But I'll say the girl fight's my favorite of those three. My second favorite would be the Builder fight, and then my least would be Medeiros. But I'm cool.
So you'd have the Peterson 1-3. All right. I got it. Stolyarenko fight 1, Medeiros Quinones 2, Peterson Poges 3, Builder 4. But it's tough. I'm going to be playing all of them.
Would actually be my favorite. I'm sorry. Peterson I didn't know we were including him. So him and then Stolyarenko, then Builder, then Medeiros.
Then the Medeiros. Love it. Well, again, those are the first 4 fights we're going to talk about. The reason I wanted to bring that up, though, like my slate overview, I'm going to be underweight on the main event, 8,600, 7,600. All 4 of these fights are the pivots right in that same range. If you don't play a main event fighter and you play Medeiros instead or Peterson instead or whatever it may be, I guess Peterson's 100 more, you can get different that way, fading the main event, leaving salary, etc. So that's my plan. These first 4 fights, I'm going to be having some. Next one, Markel Medeiros, Landon Quinones, Medeiros 8,500, Quinones 7,700, Medeiros minus 135, Quinones plus 115. This fight is minus 135 to finish with Medeiros plus 150 inside the distance, Quinones plus 325. I think this will be a pretty fun scrap. So I had it ranked second, and my reasoning was Medeiros looks like a heavy hitter, looks to be dangerous, especially early in the fight, plus 150 inside the distance. Big first round knockout is in play. He's plus 350 for that. If he does get that, probably most definitely optimal. Then with Landon Quinones, Big Marley, I think you probably know your camera did go off. There you go. You fixed it. Landon Quinones, second UFC walk to the octagon, but his debut, a week's notice against Nazareth Hack Press, lands over 140 significant strikes. Like he clearly has cardio for days. He can throw volume. I think if he can survive early, it's probably his fight to lose. And then looking at line movement in this fight, been a lot of it. This fight opened Medeiros minus 220, Quinones plus 185, and slowly, I guess it was slow to start, but even these past couple of days, man, Quinones been getting hammered. The line got all the way down to plus 107, I'm seeing. And there's a little buyback on Medeiros, now plus 115 Quinones. So probably hovers around here, minus 135, 115. A lot of line movement on the Quinones side. UFC debut against a second timer. How do you see it going down?
So yeah, I do think this is going to be a fun fight, but I put it as my least favorite because I like the Medeiros side more, and I don't know that he has a big upside unless he gets a finish here. I would think that Quinones is the higher volume striker based on his UFC debut. The guy landed 148 significant strikes and a loss, which is super impressive. But at the same time, like he had to land that many strikes because he ate like 171 strikes. So he just had to keep him coming back. So I don't expect that type of volume here. But at the same time, I just didn't see Medeiros as a volume type of striker. He's more of a press forward, pick his shots, try and get the big shots, finish you type of guy. But he's consistent with leg kicks, which I really like. And he can also mix in takedowns. So I just feel like Medeiros goes out there, wins and scores 75 to 85 points. Maybe he gets you there, maybe it doesn't. So like I'm not taking a big stance on him. And then on the Quinones side, I just think he's going to get a little bit too much interest in the field because of this line movement where I don't know that I want to match it. So I'm probably, for single entry, I'd be fine with either one, but I would guess that this fight doesn't make it into my single entry lineup. But with MME, I'd be fine anywhere from like 15 to 35% on these guys. I just don't have a real good idea of how this one's going to play out. But I like Medeiros to be the more skilled fighter. If the striking's not going his way, I think he's the more likely wrestler. So give me Medeiros 29-28 in this one. But if you go out there and you talk up Quinones, you can really change my mind on this fight, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to. Confidence isn't like that for Quinones. I am on the Quinones side. A lot of that has to do with, I just saw the volume he can put up on short notice. I think hack press is better than Medeiros. again, I think he's really dangerous early, and that's why I'll have some. But UFC debut, like Quinones is a way bigger step up in competition than Maderos, who we just fought on Contender Series in round 1. And again, vice versa for Quinones from Hack Press. And what I like most, though, is 8,500, 7,700. You literally can go build teams, plug in Maderos, take out Maderos, plug in Quinones. You just left 800 on the table. And it's a plus 115, minus 135, plus 115 fight. Like, it's not a coin flip, but it's pretty close. And if in a lineup with Maderos that left $0 had 60 dupes, and a lineup with Quinones instead of Maderos had 8 dupes, like that's a plus EV move at the end of the day, your expected payouts, especially in terms of that. So that's the main reason that I'm getting Quinones. I like the volume from them, but 8,500, take Maderos out, plug in Quinones. A lot easier to get different that way because of the pricing. So that's the main thing for me. But again, all 4 of these guys, like looking at our projected ownership in this fight, we have Maderos 17%, Quinones 18%. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if Quinones got a little more steam, like 23, something like that. But compare that to Dolidze and Imavov, 42 and 41. And we're talking half the ownership on these first couple fights for the most part. And that's my stance right now. 13 fights. I can see the main event. We'll talk about it when it gets there. You're parlaying who wins, which I think is pretty tough to think. Dolidze is very live. Imavov's tough. And then you're parlaying that into a good score. And with 13 fights, I think we're only waiting on 3 fighters to make weight. The more fights, the more bigger scores you need, the more optimal performances. So it's easier to find other fights and lower owned fighters outscore them. So yeah, that's my whole, it could literally have been a 5-minute show for me. It's game theory. That's what MMA is for the most part, but play these first 4 fights more than that main event because it's all similar pricing and you get an ownership discount, all expected to finish as well. So there's a spiel there. Quinones with the $800 savings, not a hot take or not a strong take. So I'm not going to try and talk you into it. I think Maderos is solid too. And I love his leg kicks as well. So, hey, Maderos knocks him out in the first round. I would definitely take that. Just give me some optimal performances in these first couple fights. Appreciate that, Pastor Baker. What's going on? G. Kiefer, Michael, Ross K, Suns Out, Guns Out, always for Big Marley, baby. Big Driggs in here as well. Mike Spencer, appreciate everyone hanging out. And again, if you want a membership, saw a couple people in chat. Our man, Primetime DFS, very nice of you, giving away a 1-month all-access package. So again, put in the YouTube comments. We're going to randomize. Big Marley's going to pick someone, have some words in there, maybe talk about Big Marley's muscles, whatever you think gets his attention. You get a chance for a monthly membership. Keep it rolling. Favorite fight, your favorite fight of the 4, or no, your second favorite fight. You like Peterson more, but Julio Stolyarenko, Luana Carolina, minus 149 for Stolyarenko, plus 129 for Luana Carolina. The closest price fight on the card, 8,200, 8,000. This fight is minus 125 to finish. Most of that finishing equity on the Stolyarenko side, plus 115 inside the distance. Carolina, plus 575. Can Stolyarenko get a takedown, Big Marley? Because if she does, you know that armbar is coming. And I mean, plus 115 inside the distance, plus 130 by submission, plus 225 in round 1. Like the books are pretty much saying it's round 1, and it's going to be an armbar. I remember a couple fights back before I even throw it to you. I was like, all she does is armbar. I mean, it's been no secret forever, but this was probably like 2 years ago or something. And we still try to look at the prop on a different site that had it. And the armbar was so close to the submission. Like we weren't even tricking them back then. And now you're definitely not tricking anybody. I mean, all 10 of her submissions, all in round 1, all by armbar. That's how it's going to go if she wins this fight. Do you see it going that way?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way to bet Stolyarenko would be first round submission at plus 300 because that is her best and most likely chance at winning. Because when she gets the fight to the ground, it might only take 1 takedown, but she is dangerous with that armbar. Whether she's in top or bottom, Carolina is going to be in a lot of trouble if this fight hits the mat early. But Stolyarenko is not a good wrestler, and the longer this fight goes, the worse her wrestling, the sloppier it's going to start getting. So I think that Carolina just starts to take over, and if it goes the distance, Carolina probably wins at least 2 rounds, if not all 3. So yeah, I think all the finishing upside, at least early finishing upside, is going to be on the Stolyarenko side, and I think I probably do have her ownership a little bit too low right now. It's like plus 115 inside the distance. That's
I think it'll be
46% chance. Like, damn.
I wrote my write-up. I was really curious at your ownership. So we have 23% right now. I do think that high 20s. I wouldn't even be surprised to see low 30s.
Yeah,
but it is a 13 fight card.
30, actually.
It is a 13 fight card. But yeah, I think we might be a little light on that. And again, that'll all be up on the site after this show.
Yeah. So plus 115 inside the distance. That's about 46% chance of finishing this fight. And it most likely comes early. So if I was picking Stolyarenko to win, I'm probably matching that and going like 46% exposure or something like that. But I just don't like her wrestling enough. And I think if Carolina can make it out of the first round, that this is her fight to lose. Just stay away from this girl. Pick your shots on the feet, out strike her, and it's an easy, clear decision. And I don't like the ceiling for Carolina, but that's what makes me like Stolyarenko less, I guess. I still don't want to be too far under the field, though, so I'm like fine with 20 to 30% Stolyarenko. And then on the Carolina side, I don't know what to do with her. I think she should not be going for any takedowns here. And I think her volume, like she's typically a pretty decent volume striker. But in this one where you don't want the girl to grab you, I think you probably take it a little more tentative and you don't throw as much. So it makes me want to go underweight to Carolina. And the reason I ranked this fight high is because of the Stolyarenko ceiling. If she goes out there, gets a first-round armbar, she's already sitting at 95-plus points. 95-plus points at $8,200 is going to be on the optimal lineup. So even though I'm not picking her to win, Stolyarenko is like one of the best plays in that range.
I think there's a couple fights like that where even if you are picking the other side, like the money line you think's too wide, which you very well could argue that in this fight, the better DFS play is Stolyarenko because her first round upside is huge. But I do think I'm going to have some Carolina for sure. We have, again, this fight 23-19 right now. It, again, probably will be updated a little bit. I'm thinking more 30-15.
So when I did ownership, she was like minus 125. Now she's up to minus 150. It's already moved a full 5%. So, yeah, I got to up the ownership, probably at least 5% to put me up to, what's that, 28%?
Yeah, so let's call it 30-15. And if that's the case, that would make Stolyarenko like roughly the fifth highest owned fighter on the card or something like that. I'll play Carolina for the leverage off of a Stolyarenko. And then, I can see this fight kind of going like the Chelsea Chandler fight, can't you? Like Stolyarenko, she got the takedown early. And if you actually remember, she got it to her armbar position. Like I was on Stolyarenko. She had it exactly where she needed. The second Chelsea Chandler got out, it was GG's from there. Yeah. But man, if Carolina can stop, like Stolyarenko, when she's not shooting takedowns or like when she can't get them, she's a walking punching bag. Aggressive, walks forward. Like I think Carolina does have volume upside in this fight, and I don't know what if Stolyarenko can't get takedowns earlier. She has to work. Like if this fight's in the third round, I feel like Carolina, I don't know, her jab, I guess I'll say, no, it's not great, nothing by any means, but just her winging out punches. She's long. I mean, Stolyarenko walks into them. I wouldn't be surprised to see 100 significant strikes, maybe some weird stuff there. Any thoughts there if the fight gets late? How you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, if it goes late, I really struggle to see how Stolyarenko would win unless she's really improved her wrestling. Like if she improves her wrestling, she's dangerous. She's got a ceiling in the sport, but I just haven't seen it enough to think that she has any real chance outside of that first round armbar. And I just don't agree with somebody being a 60% favorite when they're a first round armbar or bust type of fighter.
So would that be Carolina by decision? Like you trust Stolyarenko at least to have the
maybe
she won't die like Mike Malott?
Yeah, like who's more likely to get a third round finish in here? I would think
Carolina,
yeah.
And I don't know. Who knows? Let's see what the odds have on that before we get to the next fight. Carolina, odds don't agree. Plus 1,000. Actually, that's really weird. So depending on what book you look at, I guess my bookie, I don't even know if that. So my bookie has Stolyarenko round 3 at plus 820. Oh yeah, no, never mind. I'm tweaking. Both of them, all of the books has Stolyarenko better winning. I guess that makes sense though. Like, is there ever going to be a favorite that they have at worse finishing odds in any round than the dog? That'd be interesting.
I would think when it's so close to pick them, it could happen. But yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, that armbar is dangerous in any round, but
that's true.
He's never got it in the third, so I don't know.
Yeah, interesting fight. But again, I think ownership roughly 30-15. even if Stolyarenko is like 35%, and man, I think that'd be overowned. With her upside and how she fights, I'm still playing some of her. Like, I don't want a first round armbar and just be stone dead 3 fights in because Stolyarenko broke the slate. Like, that's what she does with the armbar. So I'm good eating that chalk. But the Carolina, with the leverage off of Stolyarenko and the really low ownership in that tier, again, I can see a path. Maybe Stolyarenko, bad cardio, can't get takedowns, and you just hope. It's women's MMA, man. We've seen some crazy things happen. So that's that fight. We'll keep it rolling at 13 to talk about. 3 fights, 25 minutes. We'll speed it up a little bit here. Jung Lee, Lake Builder, Lee minus 160, Builder plus 140. Looking at the odds or looking at the pricing in this one, Lee 8,300, Builder 7,900. This is the fourth fight we talked about in that mid-tier range. I'm playing all of them as pivots from the main event. Minus 140 to finish. Lee plus 145, Builder plus 310. I'll throw it right to you. I will say our ownership 22% on Lee, 21% on Builder. And again, all 4 of those fights significantly, almost half the ownership of that main event in the same range. So break this one down for us.
See, this one, I feel like there's recency bias in the line based on Builder's last fight, coming in as a favorite, losing to Kyle Nelson, who's not a good UFC fighter, and just really doing nothing in that fight. And then there's some hype around Lee. He has power in his hands. He's a pretty good striker. But I wasn't blown away with anything I saw in Lee, and I'm not so sure that he wins a 15-minute striking match here. I think that volume could be close, if not towards the Builder side. I do think power is on the Lee side. Durability is also probably on the Lee side, because like Builder gets cracked in almost every single fight, it seems like. You think he's going to get finished, and he just never has been knocked out yet. One day it's going to happen. Maybe it's here with Lee, and with the line moving in his favor, it's kind of talking me into a little bit more Lee exposure. But I think he needs the knockout to have any real ceiling. I don't think he's going to go out there trying to land takedowns on this fight. I don't think he's going to be a very high volume striker. It's just more that he'll plant his feet and he'll throw some hard bombs, and one of those could crack Builder and put him away in the first round. And that's what puts him on the optimal. But if the line movement is also going to have ownership come along with Lee, then I'm going to be underweight to the field on him. I like Builder in this one. Not only do I think he could keep it real close in a 15-minute striking match, he's got some power too, but I think he's the better grappler of the two, the more likely wrestler. He's also the underdog. And if I didn't see that last fight, then I favor Builder in this matchup. So it's more of a pick 'em to me, and I'll be overweight to the Builder side. I think he has more ways to hit a ceiling as well. So overweight Builder, underweight Lee, give me the underdog.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. We got Sean V saying Lee did not look good in his last fight. Builder looked awful in his last fight. So 2 guys coming off lackluster performances. I think it's kind of like Lee early, powerful, strong, Builder slow starter, or it's Builder late, very good cardio. Lee can slow down. I rank this one my 4th favorite fight of the first 4 we're talking about, though, because you said Builder probably the better wrestler. I think it probably stays on the feet for 15, though. Like, if one of these guys don't get cracked, they're striking the whole time. And I mean, at that point, what do you need? Like 150 plus significant strikes. And sometimes even that without a knockdown isn't enough. So again, I'm playing this fight because half the ownership of the main event in the mid tier, similarly priced, but I do prefer Stolyarenko, the Juana Carolina fight, the Maderos Quinones fight, and the Peterson Poges fights. If I had to pick. Now, like, I like Builder more than Poges as an underdog for pretty much the same money line odds and stuff like that. But I do have this fight ranked last of the 3. I think I prefer Lee a little more than Builder, because I do think Lee has first round knockout upside. And if that's the case, I mean, plus 145 isn't bad for inside the distance. Hits hard early. I think that's where the ceiling really comes from. Builder just has to put on a pace, take over, maybe mix in wrestling there. But I'll go side with Lee as the pick. I'll side with Lee on the side. But again, I like those other 3 fights more. What's going on, John Kelly? I hope you're doing well, man. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. What's up, John? And I put Builder above Maderos because Builder's an underdog. I'm picking him to win. Maderos the favorite, who I picked to win. So I just ranked him above him because of that reason.
Makes some sense. Eddie, what's going on? Always in here. Beetlebane. No NFL, very sad. MMA, we got you. I will say, though, First rule, do not stack fights in GPPs. That means do not play Blake Builder and Jung Young Lee in the same lineup. And I know I said this, some crazy 3-round fight stack's going to be optimal on a 13-fight card. But let's keep it going. Next fight on the card again. Appreciate that thumbs up from everybody out there watching live, watching on playback. Helps us out a ton. Hit that subscribe button too. Themba Gzimbo, Pete Rodriguez. Gzimbo minus 250, Pete Rodriguez plus 210. Gzimbo looking to be one of the biggest, one of the highest owned on the card. I do think he's the highest owned in the upper tier. That's how we have it. 41% for him. Pete Rodriguez at 20%. This fight is minus 400 to finish. The most likely fight to finish on the card. Gzimbo minus 130 inside the distance. Pete Rodriguez plus 225. Now I think we might be a little hot on the Pete Rodriguez ownership. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was like closer to the 15 than the 20. Regardless of what I'm saying, though, I love this fight, and I know Gzimbo's going to be popular. And like same thing what I just said about Stolyarenko. If Gzimbo wins, I think he scores well. He's going to look to wrestle. He's going to look to grapple. Pete Rodriguez hasn't shown anything off his back. I don't think the fight would go really well for him. So if Gzimbo wins, I think there's a lot of upside there. I'm fine playing him as chalk. Plenty of ways to get different on a 13-fight card. Now, I have interest in Pete Rodriguez because he cracks. I don't think Gzimbo's that, like, he's definitely overrated. Like, minus 250 or, like, one of the chalkiest favorites on the card being Themba Gzimbo. I don't know, man. Like, I don't have the confidence in him like that. Pete hits hard, plus 225 inside the distance, and you get leverage off of one of the chalkiest fighters. However, if you're telling me he's 20%, which I'm seeing in your ownership, shout out Sheets, has been as good as anybody in the industry. It's been the highest that he's looked at so far since following. If it's 20%, though, and you tell me that right now, I don't know how much I want at 20%. So talk to me on this one. Great fight, though.
So, yeah, this is actually my favorite fight on the card for DFS because I think we're getting a big score from either one of them. And I think Pete Rodriguez is just so live to come out there and break the slate. First round, just not only be the better striker, but he is trying to knock his opponent's head off with every strike he's throwing. Basically, he's going to be marching forward, throwing bombs, trying to stuff any takedowns Gzimbo's throwing. And Gzimbo's real sloppy when the fight's on his feet. So I think he could get cracked in that first round. And then Rodriguez has 110 points. If you don't have Rodriguez, you don't cash on this card type thing. And that's what I'm picking to happen, actually. I think Rodriguez knocks him out in the first round. So that's the reason I put the ownership high. And then John Kelly in chat, I know he's picking him to get a first-round knockout too. I think he helps a little bit with that ownership. So I think he is going to be up there in the 20% range. But if he doesn't get that first-round knockout, Gzimbo probably mops the floor with him. Like, I don't think Rodriguez is going to have anything to offer against anybody on his back. On the regional scene, he can go out there and land some takedowns and look pretty good in top control. And I think he could even do that here in the first round. But he's never been out of the first round. And I think if he does, I have to favor Gzimbo's cardio. And I think it's Gzimbo landing takedowns, doing whatever he wants in top control. So Gzimbo probably has the highest ceiling on the card, I guess, especially if Rodriguez kind of gasses out and just takes a beating while he's on the ground. Gzimbo scored 114 in his last fight. That included a knockdown, but it also had 3 takedowns, 2 reversals, 11 minutes of control time. I just think we're getting 100-plus points from either one of these guys, and I plan on being around 50% on Gzimbo, but that's only going to put me just a little bit above the field where I'm going to get 40-50% Rodriguez, and now I'm doubling the field. So Rodriguez is my pick. He's my leverage play, and hopefully me and John Kelly will ride that to a first-round knockout.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything you said. Definitely the striking advantage, looking to take your head off. There's just nothing freaking more tilting than when you have all the money on the striker and he just gets taken down, put on his back right away, and you're in a world of hurt. But Gzimbo, one of the chalkiest fighters, Pete Rodriguez, punt play, all the leverage off of him as well. John says he has 18%, you got 20. Yeah, very, very similar there. So I was hoping it was going to be like the 15, something like that, but plus 225 inside the distance. I do think people probably do see that. I'll be playing both sides for sure. I will have more Gzimbo. I know that. Now, will I be more overweight on? That's a little tougher question because I will be the upper tier mixing and matching, but I do agree. I have Gzimbo as number 1 in my tier rankings in the upper tier. due to I think he has the highest ceiling on the slate with the rest. Like you could see plenty takedowns, plenty control time, or you could just see submission pretty quick as well. Like I think there's plenty of outs for a big boy score on the Gzimbo side. And I do think Pete too, like if he wins, it's probably not, oh, he got control for 9 minutes the first 2 rounds and then just boinks him in the 3rd round, which would be how this fight busts. I don't really see it going like that either. Yeah, the AJ Fletcher fight was definitely really good. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, as at Maxim, Charles Johnson, -220 for Maxim, +185 for Charles Johnson. Talking pre-show, or not pre-show, in the beginning about Apex fighters and all of that. Sean O'Malley, I said it would hurt him. Charles Johnson, not a fan. Fighting in here as well, someone brought that up too. This fight, +190 to finish. Maxim +275 inside the distance. Charles Johnson +550. Looking at the odds in this one and the pricing, Maxim 8,900, and we have him at 23%. Charles Johnson 7,300 at 13%. Easy for me, fading Charles Johnson. He's going to be fighting off takedowns the whole fight. His takedown defense is not great, not the most power. I think he would need to fight the perfect fight. Something would have to happen for him to hit the optimal. So I'm fading him in 20 and below. I think Maxim's interesting. Obviously coming off a very 59-point win, DraftKings point win. But man, that matchup, you look at it. Tyson Nam, very great, good takedown defense, a lot of power, just a tough stylistic matchup in a debut, especially to score points. Charles Johnson's given up a lot of takedowns in a lot of fights. Maxim shot 11 that fight. Looks to be a primary wrestler that'll chain takedowns. I think this is I'm going right back to him. I played a little, I know, against Nam. I'm definitely playing this spot. Looks like a lot of upside and not too much ownership. So what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think that we are going to get an ownership discount based on that UFC debut from Maxim. And that's kind of how I saw it in my head too. When I first saw this matchup, I was like, damn, Maxim, $8,900. I remember him not doing anything in his UFC debut. Kind of thought he lost the fight.
I don't know how he won that fight. He's undefeated, so let's keep the undefeated record. But yeah, outstruck. He shot 11 takedowns, but
when you're getting doubled up on strikes by Tyson Nam, one of the lowest volume strikers in the UFC, that's not a good thing. And now you're facing a pretty high volume striker in Johnson. So I was like, man, if these guys are just trading volume, Johnson's going to win on the cards. Maybe it'll be close again. But then I go back and I watch Maxim's older fights and like, this guy is good on the ground. He's slick with his takedown entries too. And Johnson's been taken down 31 times in 6 UFC fights. Like this just seems like a clear bounce back spot for Maxim to go out there and possibly land 8 takedowns in a decision win and score maybe 110 points. So I will take that discount on Maxim this week. I've talked myself into going overweight on him. I do think it will be close if he wants to keep this fight standing. I think he's a good striker. It's just that he wastes way too much time while he's standing. And if he does that here, he's going to get out volumed again. So you got to go out there and wrestle, not only to look like a -230 favorite, but to score well, you got to go out there and wrestle or grapple. So I am going to be overweight on Maxim, but I agree with the Johnson side. I'm just going to fade him. I think he's in play to maybe just out volume the fight. But if he is spending time on his back, I don't see any real ceiling for him. If he grinds out a close decision win, he might not even 10x. So overweight Maxim, possible fade, full fade Johnson.
Lockstep. Love that. Sorry about that, Cheats. He said he came in right for the Johnson fight, talking leverage. Not for us today, but hey, I'm actually curious if you are playing Charles Johnson. I didn't even expect you to go there, Sheets. I expected some Pete Rodriguez, I don't know what else, fading the main event, stuff like that, but I didn't know you'd be on the Charles Johnson side. And yes, he did confirm. Still, we rate at the top for percent ownership tracked. That's all Marley. I got no credit for that. So shout out to you, Big Marley. Ownership, very, very, all sports is important. Very important with MMA, of course, though, with just how everything goes. Only 13 fights, 26 fighters, head-to-head against each other. Ownership, very important. For handling dupes, appreciate that. And yes, I was shaking my head right when I saw this comment. Missed by 3 pounds at 129 because they give him that extra pound of cushion. 129, 3-pound miss. I mean, man, that fight has to stay on, right? Come on, man.
Shit. Honestly, if we lose a fight, I'm okay losing that fight, to be honest.
No, Stolyarenko, Carolina, we need that for you.
I don't want to get burned by a first-round Stolyarenko armbar, so I'm I'm kind of okay losing that.
No, that's another pivot from the main event. We need 13 fights. Yes, Sheets knows what's good. Please keep that on. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Next fight on the card: Molly McCann, Belbita. The rematch from 2019. McCann minus 263. Belbita plus 223. Looking at the odds, plus 195 inside the distance, plus 195 for this fight to finish inside the distance. All of the finish equity on the McCann side, plus 230 compared to Belbita at plus 800. Ownership in this one, Meatball Molly 31% and Belbita 13%. I wouldn't be surprised if Belbita got a little more ownership due to her like floor volume, who she's around in the lower tier. Definitely could be wrong, but I went back and forth on this fight a good bit. I mean, Molly McCann looked absolutely cheeks last fight. Now, Stolyarenko, what does she have? That armbar? She absolutely showed it against Molly McCann. Blanchfield fight, no shame in that. I just don't know how good Molly McCann is, though. At this point of her career, what is he? I mean, minus 263. There's no way you lay the juice on that. It's dog or pass on that way. But in terms of DFS, I mean, we looked at her last fight. I think she scored 108. If you go back in 2019, you get the DraftKings points, 5 takedowns, a lot of volume. I think Molly needs takedowns, I think, to get the upside. Do you think she shoots and has success for them? Then talk to me about Belbita too, because I've been going back and forth on this whole fight.
See, I'm actually picking Belbita to win here.
Yeah.
But when I was hand building lineups, I was just rarely getting to her, even though I'm picking her to win. So I just feel like she's got to be low owned because I also don't think she has much of a ceiling. I think her ceiling is kind of capped in the 80s range. I mean, at 6,900 in the 80s, probably going to get you there still. But I don't know, man. Like I said, I think every underdog on this card is live. And if they all somehow ended up winning, I don't think she scores top 6 in the underdog. So I'm still going to keep the ownership low on her, but I probably personally will be closer in the 20% range. And I just see this fight being more of a striking match than the last fight. And I think it's a really close fight on the feet. I do give the overall edge to Molly based on takedowns because of their last fight. She definitely did her best work once she landed the takedowns, and she really dominated Belbita on the ground, but they were 20 pounds heavier back then, or 10, 20, whatever they were, 10 pounds heavier. And I just don't know that same success is going to be there at this point in her career after she's got dominated twice in a row. Now she's dropping weight classes for the first time. I don't know, man. I just, the line is what talked me into this. I feel like you give me a pick 'em line, I'll pick Molly to win more often than not, but it'd be closer to like 60% of the time, something like that. So the line talked me into Belbita to win a close split decision here. But on DraftKings, I don't know that that's going to do her a whole lot of good, especially if she does spend any time on her back. Because if she goes out there, let's give her the win in their last fight, she would have scored 78 points. If I told you she's going to score 78 points here, how much exposure would you want?
If she's 13% and you tell me she's scoring 78 points, I'd probably have like 15%.
Yeah, see that, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is she probably scores a little bit more than 78? If I gave her like an exact projection in a win, I would probably say she scores like 82 points, something like that. And I mean, I'm cool with it at 6,900, but I just think there's other underdogs who can win and have higher ceilings.
Yeah, this fight's halfway through the card. You wouldn't be mad if you got 82 at 6,900. Definitely aren't mad. But why? MMA is a sport where it's optimal or bust, pretty much. Like usually there's chops, even if there isn't. The payout structures are so crazy. It's first or last. I mean, most sports, I guess, are now, especially MMA, though. So that's why we're saying like 78, of course. You take that in cash games. You take that in pretty much any tournament. But flagship, is that enough for the optimal? That's to be determined on the more fights, the more bigger scores you need. And the closer the line fights are, usually the bigger scores you need because how DraftKings algorithm is they won't price anyone the same price. It's like no one's going to be 8,300 twice unless like there's late notice replacements, etc. So that means the money line odds, if they're all closely lined fights, if every 13 fight was minus 120, they had to put someone all the way down at 7K. Like that's just how they do it. Whereas FanDuel, they can have multiple people at $16, $18, etc. The only problem is you bank the flagship, you only win $18 as your first place prize. But I do like FanDuel, and they take into consideration the 5 rounds over there as well. So like the underdog in the 5-round fight, even if they're plus 400, still might be $15, whereas there's $11 people that have better money line odds. So little tangent there, but that is why, going back to the original point, Belbita, 78 points, you definitely take it. It might not be optimal though. I think she has a little more upside though. Like, I think if Belbita wins, Marley just might be completely washed. And I'm waiting for it. Belbita's only 27 years old. Like, what if she got takedowns? Like,
yeah, I think she's kind of live for like a takedown or two. I don't think she would do a lot with it, whereas I think Molly could actually stay in top control and land a lot of strikes and really add up, where I don't think Belbita has that same type of, ground game ceiling in her. But I also kind of picked Belbita. I mostly think it stays on the feet, just back and forth, almost a coin flip type of striking match. But I also think that Molly just feeds off the crowd, and this one's at the Apex. There is no real crowd there. She's not in London with everyone chanting her name here. And I don't know that we're going to get the same hype and aggressiveness, especially if she's not believing in herself at this point. So the line is what talked me into it, but I do think this is a lot closer to a pick'em fight than it is a blowout for Molly. So at 31% Molly, though, you think I'm too high there?
No, I think that maybe it's high 20s. I think it's pretty close. I mean, minus 263 is one of the biggest favorites on the card. I think she is probably higher owned than Silva because that 200 discount. Maybe high 20s. The thing is, I don't even know what I want to do with her because, again, I'm really worried. This money line's too wide. I'm worried that she might be a little over the hill. But if she can go for takedowns, and like that's all she's done in the camp. Already fought a couple of years ago. Takedowns were free. Stay in top control, do some damage, etc. I mean, we know DraftKings takedowns and top control can definitely add up in a fight like that. So, no, I think the ownership is probably fine. If anything, maybe a little lower. I'm going to play some. I'm going to play some Belbita. I don't have a hot take on this fight, though.
Yeah. I'm guessing I'm like around 20s on both of them.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably something like I'll be doing as well. Next fight on the card, keep it rolling. Still got, 6 fights, something like that. 45 minutes in. Appreciate everyone hanging out, as always. Gilbert Urbina, Charles Radkey. This one should be a fun one. Minus 202 for Urbina. And I'm going fightodds.io at Bet Online is the odds that I keep saying and pulling. Always make sure to price shop fightodds.io. Very good job. Very easy layout to see where the best line is. This fight's minus 180 to finish. Urbina plus 130 inside the distance. Radkey plus 240. Looking at the pricing in this one, $9K for Urbina, $7,200 for Radkey, and ownership, $28 for Urbina, $12 for Radkey. I hope that ownership stays because I'm going to be overweight on this fight. At that ownership, I'll probably be overweight on both. I mean, Urbina's a fun fighter. Throws a lot of volume, can mix in takedowns. Radkey, awful performance last time against Blood Diamond. But before that, before the UFC, he was in some fun fights. Solid striker. I think this could be a pretty high pace. I like targeting Gilbert Urbina fights. Looked good to me last fight, coming into his own. I'm picking the favorites. But, man, I mean, I'm going to play some Charles Radkey down there at 12% and be overweight. So give me some optimal performance. Urbina's the pick, though, and I like him quite a bit in this upper tier.
Yeah, I'm picking Urbina as well. I just think he is the more skilled fighter everywhere from what I've seen. I think he's the better striker, and I think he's got an even bigger edge with his grappling. Probably the better wrestler as well, but he's also the guy that seems like a much better hammer than he is a nail. Like if things start going bad for Urbina, I think they just start to get worse. And Radkey's a live dog for 7,200, and the longer this goes, the more success he could start to have, and he could really start to pile on points late in this fight. So I think that he's in play just for those reasons. As a live dog, maybe he even loses the first round, comes back, wins the second and third. But I think he probably scores around 75, 80 points, something like that if he wins. I don't see a huge ceiling for him unless he's just the better fighter, unless I'm wrong and he's not, and Urbina's not the more skilled fighter. But I think Urbina comes out there and wins the first round, and who knows if he can continue the success in the second and the third. But yeah, I thought he looked great in his last fight, where I thought Radkey didn't look very good at all. And now it's a tougher matchup for Urbina. Who knows if it's easier or tougher? Tougher for Radkey. Who knows if it's easier or tougher for Urbina here? But yeah, man, what I saw on film, I liked Urbina. I just don't love 9K. I'm fine with it, but if like you're telling me it's him or Gzimbo, ownership doesn't matter, I would think Gzimbo in a win, of course, outscores him. But I'm picking Urbina to win, and I'm picking Gzimbo to lose. So, like, you would think I should be higher on Urbina here. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with the Urbina side. I haven't done my lineups yet. When I was hand building, I wasn't getting really much Urbina, but I ended up withdrawing every single hand built lineup I had because I was like, fuck, I have no Urbina. I have no Stolyarenko. I was like, this is screwed. I just got to go do 150 on the solver. So I'll be doing that after the podcast. But yeah, I'm guessing maybe you'll talk me into getting more Urbina here, I guess. But yeah, I'm fine with 30 to 40%, maybe even more Urbina. But the Radkey side, like I don't hate it, but I just like so many other underdogs more, where I think I got to cap his ownership probably at like 20%, something like that.
Yeah, a fair play to all that. I want to touch on this because it kind of talks about what you said. I would not be surprised if Gzimbo came in 50% and McCann was like 25 and he just got that pivot up or got that ownership up there and got the steam. I would not be surprised about that at all. I know Urbina won't get, too much steam. He can mix in takedowns. Like he very well could be better wherever the fight goes. He's definitely going to be lower on than Gzimbo. I do want to piggyback off of one thing you said, though. You go, I like Urbina to win and I like Gzimbo to lose, but you're saying that you like Gzimbo more in DFS. And that's how I think about it in MMA DFS too, pretty much. We do the taste study. I have takes on fights. I pick fighters, etc. At the end of the day, though, I do trust books and lines a lot. They're very efficient. They take a lot of money. I'm wrong plenty of times. I like targeting. Of course, ownership's always important in my process, trying to limit dupes. But I like targeting fights. I like this fight. I'll play both sides. Winner of Gzimbo, Pete Rodriguez, Marley said, scores well. So even if he doesn't like Gzimbo or he's picking Pete Rodriguez, you still play Gzimbo because if he wins, you think he scores really well. I like this fight. If Radkey does win, I think he scores pretty well. And he's 13% at plus 240 inside the distance. Like just those props alone and that ownership are going to put me on him. And I think Urbina makes it a fun fight. So just because I don't like Radkey, I think he loses. I'm going to be overweight because I think if he does win, when he wins, he can score well at this ownership. So just a little broad slate overview. I know Beetlebane, some people might be playing MMA for the first time, and everyone takes stuff differently. There's people I respect out there that'll pick every single fight. Actually, some people do this, I guess, but every single fight, they X out all the other fighters and try and build combinations, etc. That's not necessarily me. I like targeting fights I think will score well more than I'm going to make a 12-team parlay. I know who's going to win every fight. Then one of them loses, I'm stone dead. So there's my rant right there. We'll keep it rolling on the next fight. Salikhov, Kizer taking on Makhmud Muradov. Kizer minus 146, Muradov plus 126. Seen a lot of line movement in this one. Kizer open minus 225. Got bought down right away to the Muradov side. And so what? Kizer back to Muradov, back to Kizer. And it's been slowly, steadily coming down on the Muradov side. He's taking a lot of money, especially these past couple of days. So I'll throw it right to you. This is the most mispriced fight on the card. 8,800, 7,400. But Stolyarenko is a bigger favorite at 8,200 than Kizer is at 8,800. I think that has to keep ownership down. We have Kizer 24% and where is Muradov 24% as well. I think that's right. Because Muradov, I think, is just going to get money line value ownership. I mean, people are going to see plus 125 at 7,400 in a fight that's supposed to finish. Play him. One of the more popular underdogs. Kizer, I wasn't so sure of, but at his inside the distance prop, his style of fighting and stuff, I do think he does get some, even though bad win odds for the price. I like Kizer. I like at this ownership, if they're the same ownership, I like Kizer more because I think his wrestling, his grappling, I think the upside's better on that side, where Muradov could win a striking decision and score 75. So Kizer for me. Muradov definitely going to get some ownership, though. How do you see it?
So yeah, this was a tough one. Like, breaking down the fight, I really like Kizryev's style. I always like the guys who want to get the fight to the ground, who are going to chain wrestle to try and get it there, and who have finishing upside once they're there. And that's Kizryev. But my issue is that he's really like a 170 fighter, and he's now fighting up at 185. He's also only fought, I believe, 3 times since 2018. And I just don't trust this guy. Like, I don't know what the hell he's been doing. I don't know what his game plan is going to be. I don't know if he has cardio to go out there and wrestle for 3 full rounds. There's just a lot of question marks on the Kizryev side. So I was like, I was trying to talk myself into an underdog bet on Muradov, because I do think Muradov is going to be the bigger guy. I think he's going to have a clear striking advantage. I think he's the more dangerous striker in every round. And he also has some wrestling upside himself. He like broke the slate last time when you said he could go out there, put the wrestling shoes on. I think I was going to fade him, and you talked me into getting some more Muradov ownership. I mean, I don't think I won on that card, but it helped me at least not lose as much, I'm sure. But I just don't see Muradov landing more than a couple takedowns here. And I think it would be more so because Kizryev already gassed out or something like that. But for DFS, with all this line movement moving to Muradov, had that not happened, I probably would have put him at like 16% ownership, and then Kizryev at like 35% ownership, something like that. And then I've kind of just met in the middle.
I like where you're at now.
As the line moved, and I kind of see it. I like it more the other way. I would rather be heavier on Kizryev. Give me 35+% on the guy who's going to go out there, look to wrestle. And if he does win the fight, it's going to really come through the ground, and that's going to score well on DraftKings. So the upside puts me on Kizryev really on DFS. Like, I'm not laying that juice for a bet, but I'd really like him on DFS. And then on the other side, like, I don't want to get completely burned, so I want some Muradov exposure, and he could finish Kizryev in any round. But now that the ownership's up to like 24%, I don't want to quite go that high. So maybe I go 15 to 18, something like that. I don't want to get completely burned, but I do plan on going underweight Muradov, overweight Kizryev. Give me Kizryev to be the 5th person to submit Muradov.
Literally everything you pretty much said I'm lockstep with. I love it. I think your ownership's spot on. I prefer the Kizryev side like you. I'm not going to full fade Muradov. Again, it's a 13 fight card. So we're talking chalk dog at 24%, which is true, but you can find plenty of ways on a 13 fight card to get different. And again, I'll be underweight on the main event. I'm not fading it. I'll be underweight though. If you don't play any of the main event fighter and leave a couple $100, you can eat plenty of chalk in some spots there. Just get one spot to be different, etc. So yeah, I prefer the Kizer side. I think you had a very good breakdown on that. 4 fights left. Vivian, or no, sometimes they got the dog listed first. Come on, man. Natalia Silva, Vivian Araujo, minus 355 is Silva, the biggest favorite on the card and the highest price fighter. Araujo plus 290 on the way back. We got Silva plus 210 inside the distance and Araujo plus 800. Looking at these pricing, 9,500 against Silva at 6,700. Vivian, 21 ownership for Silva, 10 for Vivian. Sounds right to me. What is your thoughts in this fight? Again, plus 185 to finish.
Yeah, I'll be short on this one and the next one. These are my 2 least favorite DraftKings fights on the card. Silva, I mean, she looks like the real deal. She could be the future of this division, but this is the toughest matchup for her yet, and I don't think that she really warrants the line, and I think she has to get a finish really to pay off a $9,500 price tag in this matchup, because I think Araujo is probably the better wrestler of the 2, and she's also the more powerful one-punch striker as well, I think. But Silva is just the more well-rounded striker, the faster striker, probably higher volume. She's got the nastier grappling, I think, like off of her back. She's got a lot of arm bars on the regional scene. So I think Silva just has more ways to win. I think it's kind of a changing of the ships where Araujo was getting her title shots, and now Silva's on her way to getting hers. I just don't want to pay $9,500 for a girl I don't feel good about winning. We got plus 185 that this fight ends inside the distance. I mean, that's not great. That's saying that it's like a 70% chance that this fight goes all 3 rounds. And if you tell me it for sure goes all 3 rounds, Silva for sure wins, I don't think she's really got any chance at the optimal lineup. So I'll probably fade Silva. Maybe she'd go out there, get a finish, and score well with high volume leading up to it. But I'd rather take my chances elsewhere. And I put her at like 21%. I feel like that could even be high, but something about just being the highest priced fighter, people are never going to completely shy away from that, especially when she is like the biggest favorite on the card too. So I put her higher than I have any chances of getting personally. There's no way I'm getting plus 20% or more Silva. Probably just X her out, give me Silva to win, but she scores 67 points, something like that. And if you told me I have to use this fight in a lineup, I guess I'd rather just use Araujo as completely unowned, because I do think she's very live here. She could possibly, like, her real upside would be landing a big shot and knocking this girl out, but she could have good volume leading up to it, mix in 2-3 takedowns along the way, and score 85 points at $6,700. I think she probably has a higher ceiling than Belbita, but Belbita is more likely to win, I would say.
That makes sense. I'm more, so this fight is full fade, and then I went Silva underweight. I'm still fading Vivian. And like 20% is the biggest favorite on the card. On a card, I do expect dogs to come through, so I'm not too worried about salary. Yeah, I mean, I hope you're hoping for a finish, no doubt about that. I like plenty of other people in the upper tier more, but as their ownership is the biggest favorite, she's a way to get different. I think she's fine, but again, I'll be capping her ownership. I'll be playing no Vivian. You said this and the next fight are your least 2 favorite fights. Pretty much lockstep here. We'll get right into this one. No thank you for me. Randy Brown, Muslim Salikhov, minus 260 for Brown, Muslim plus 220 on the way back. This fight's plus 100, flip a coin, baby. Actually, minus 105 nowadays, flipping a coin. Plus 100 to finish, plus 195 inside the distance for Brown. Salikhov plus 350. This fight was supposed to take place in December, UFC 296. Brown out, rescheduled now. Head is a fight fade initially. I'm fight fading this one again, man. I like others in the range of Randy Brown more up top. Muslim Salikhov, low volume. He has power. Think this fight stays on the feet. Randy Brown chips away and probably wins a decision. So, yeah, no thanks to me. We're already over an hour talking about fights, but a lot of that was because the first 4 fights, I told my whole plan. Main event, I'll be underweight. First 4 fights, a lot lower owned, same pricing, the mid-tier. Hopefully some of those are optimal. Randy Brown not going to be one I get to in the upper tier. No thanks to Salikhov. Easy peasy for me. How do you see it?
Yeah, I just agree. I think Randy Brown probably just point fights his way to a decision win here. I think Salikhov would be my preferred play if I had to use this fight, though, because at $7,100, I think he could break the slate with a first round spinning something knockout. Whereas if Randy Brown gets a first round knockout, he's got a good chance at the optimal, but he's not a lock for it. He still has to compete with all these other people that could score 100 plus points. So Brown's going to be a fade for me for that reason. In his last 4 wins, they've all been in the 70s. And I feel like we're probably going to get that here. Give me a 70-point win at $9,100. I want 0 of it. So give me Brown to win and just not score enough. And since I'm picking Brown to win, I don't think Salikhov has any way to score either unless he gets a finish. But if he does somehow win a decision, he might be able to score close to 10x. I just like too many other underdogs on the card. So I'll be Xing both sides out, even with 150 lineups, I think.
Wow, love that. I don't know if I'll do it 150, 20 and less, definitely. But Marley's got some stones on him for sure. 2 fights left on the card again. Marley, if you can try and find a winner and look for that, we appreciate it. In the meantime, thumbs up. Helps us out a ton. Subscribe. Helps us out a ton. And if you do want to join us at chipandnation.com, get in the MMA streets this week, the golf streets, NBA, of course, big slate today, NHL, no NFL this week, Super Bowl next week. No better time, though. chipandnation.com, weekly, monthly, 6-month, and annual packages. And again, we are giving away right here. There we go. You want to read it off, Marley?
There we go. We got Michael Peterson, so he can move his new granddaughter to a state other than Idaho, where DFS goes to die. So Michael Peterson, let me see. What does he got to do? Email.
Take a picture of your YouTube, Michael Peterson. email info. I'll write it in here for you. info@shipitnation.com. Email that right there. info@shipitnation.com. Michael Peterson, the picture of your YouTube. Say you want it. You got a month from our man Primetime DFS. Shout out to you, Primetime. Very nice of you. Make sure to get in the Discord as well. The monthly does come with that. What's going on, Nico? And I do see your picture, baby. And new. 2 fights left. Renato Moicano, Drew Dober, -188 for Moicano, +163 for Drew Dober. Looking at the odds in this fight, it is -325 to finish. Moicano +100 inside the distance. Drew Dober +175. In terms of pricing and ownership in this one, we got Moicano 8,400 at 37%, which is the 4th highest owned fighter on the card. Drew Dober 27% at 7,800. So this is, I've been going back and forth on picking this one. I think it's a great fight. I like both guys for sure. At -190, I went with Dober as the dog at dog money, but it's kind of like what you said earlier in the week, Stolyarenko fight. I still like Renato Moicano more in DFS, even at this ownership, because I think Drew can definitely crack him in round 1 and knock him out and win that way. But if this fight, even a Dober 3rd round knockout or a decision Dober win, stuff in the takedowns, etc., I see paths where that isn't enough, especially on dogs. We expect dogs to win and score well. So I'll be playing some Dober. I think he's fine, and I do like his plus money. But Moicano, if he wins, man, how's he not optimal? Is kind of how I see it. Like, he's going to be looking for takedowns. When he's on the mat, Dober can get submitted. Moicano, a solid striker too. I don't know. I think Moicano either gets him to the mat, finishes them, and he scores well, or Dober stuffs it for the most part, maybe knocks him out, but maybe doesn't score well. So at this money line, I'm on the dog. In terms of DFS, though, I like Moicano more. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, I love this fight. I love both sides of this fight. I'm going to be super heavy on this fight. It's close to all in. I think we most likely get a submission from Moicano or a knockout from Dober. But I'm kind of the opposite, where I could see Moicano winning and not making the optimal, where I don't see Dober winning and not being on the optimal. I mean, he's never scored less than 80 in a win, but I think if Dober wins, it means he's really piecing up Moicano on the feet, and I don't think Moicano has the chin to be able to deal with that. So if Dober is winning, I think he wins by knocking him out at some point. Whereas if he doesn't knock out Moicano, I think Moicano's out there live to win in a striking match. He is a good point fighter. I think he could keep it on the outside, land some leg kicks. But that is how he would not make the optimal lineup, is he just keeps his fight on the feet for too long, because his ceiling is all on the ground, whether it's a 1st round or a 2nd round submission, or he goes out there and racks up 8 takedowns and a decision win. Either of those are going to put him, 100 plus points. So I'm cool with both sides, but I'm not going to be 100% all in based on that. It's really the Jeremy Stevens fight with Moicano. It was a long time ago, but it's kind of a similar matchup where you're just afraid of Stevens' power ending the fight like that. But skill-wise, you can hang strike for strike. But I just think if it's going Dober's way, he's going down, because Dober has serious power, a huge chin. Moicano's never knocked anybody out. But I am going to pick Moicano to win by submission. I just think he does have more ways to win the fight. And if he's smart, he goes out there and looks for takedowns early. But I'm completely fine having more exposure or even having Dober in my single entry, especially if I really need $600 to help my lineup out somewhere else. So this is a fight that I probably would have put Moicano on my core plays over at shipitnation.com, but I left him off of it because I would completely be fine with Dober on that core play list as well. So I put 3 other people. You guys can go over there, check it out. You get all sports for one price, so no reason not to. We've been crushing all sports, best Discord in the industry. But I got 3 other plays on there, and it's just going to be a fight that I target heavily.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, Moicano with the physique fight as well. He was hanging in there. He's a good striker. He's very good on the mat. Like, he's a well-rounded fighter for sure. The rightful favorite, I think, as well. Dober's game, it's going to be a great fight for sure. We got 1 fight left. Main event time, Big Marley. I know you got to run in about 5 minutes. Main event for me, I'll keep it pretty short and sweet. Nasruddin Imavov, Roman Dolidze, -171. Imavov, +146. is Dolidze. This fight's minus 225 to finish. Imavov plus 145 inside the distance. Dolidze plus 175. So I've hinted at it a lot. Again, for pricing and ownership too. Imavov 8,600 at 41%. Dolidze 7,600 at 42%. So I talked about my reasoning. I'm going to be underweight on this fight. The first thing is I was going back and forth on who I even think was going to win. I still don't even really know who I'm confident in. As far as the next reason, the more fights, I talked about it earlier, the more bigger scores you need, the more optimal to be on the optimal. We have 4 fights that are all pretty much half the ownership in that mid-tier around this pricing. All 4 of those fights are slightly favored to finish, all at half the ownership. We play an ownership game, a dupe game, etc. I think being underweight on this main event, hoping some of these other of the 12 fights can outscore this one, and I can't see it. Imavov, 4.5 significant strikes per minute. Dolidze in the 3s. I don't think really any of these two wrestle much. I don't think Dolidze has too much success. I don't think Imavov does. So if they don't get clipped, Dolidze's got power, Imavov with the volume advantage, but I can see this, and I am picking it. I'm saying Imavov by decision, and if that's the case, I don't want this fight really. So 40% on both. I'm not full fading. I always want to make sure if I have 40% of Dolidze, I'll probably have 20% or less of Imavov. Overall, underweight on this fight, using the first 4 fights as pivots. I prefer Dolidze to Imavov if I had to pick, just because if either wins a decision, Dolidze at 7,600 has a better chance than Imavov at 8,600 to get there. So, yeah, I'll be underweight. Take it away, though, for us.
Yeah, I think I'll be overweight. I don't know about overweight. I'll just be heavy on the fight. I think it's my 3rd favorite fight on the card to target, but it's because they're right there kind of in the mid-range, 8.6K and 7.6K. Neither one of them are too hard to afford. And we have about a 70% chance that this fight ends inside the distance. And either one of those guys could finish. But I do think Dolidze has more finishing equity, especially in that first and second round when that bonus really matters. I think he's the more dangerous striker early, and I think he's the more dangerous grappler as well. But throughout the course of 25 minutes, I think either one of them could land 2 to 5 takedowns, which would help in their decision score. But that would be what makes it not on the optimal lineup, is it goes all 5 rounds, and it could really be either guy that wins and not gets there.
I even think a 3rd round knockout. We've seen some main events go 84, 85. Yeah.
True.
I think there's multiple.
True. But I ended up putting it as a 5-star because I'm taking the underdog to win. I just think Dolidze could get a finish really in any round, but it's one of those where I think Imavov's probably the one dishing out a little bit higher volume, but Dolidze's landing the harder shots that mean more. And what are the judges like? I have no freaking idea. So give me the guy with plus money next to their name. So I took Dolidze for that reason, but I think he's going to get a finish at some point. If it gets to the 4th and 5th round, I don't really know who slows down more, but I feel like something about something about Dolidze lately just is making me want to pick him here. And I kind of thought he almost won that Vettori fight, to be honest with you. And this is a weird one because I feel like I've always picked against Dolidze and I've always picked Imavov to win. So I don't know why I'm really switching my pick here. I think it's just the line that talked me into it, to be honest with you. But I'm fine with either one of them. I do think we're going to get more than 10x from the winner. And I do think that 100 points is possibly more likely than them hitting less than 10x. But I'll probably have 85% of my lineups having this fight.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's definitely a hot take going underweight. Just the stance I'll be taking on this card. But I hear you with Dolidze. I was in Austin, Texas when he fought a couple years back, Kyle Dawkins, and he walked out, man, a man possessed. I think I told this story. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, everything. Since then, he beat Vettori. He hasn't lost a fight. I'm like, something's flipped for this dude, so I wouldn't be surprised. And I will be cheering for Dolidze. That's Marley's alarm. He's probably got to go pick up the kid. Everything will be up on the site right after this show. Projections, ownership, fight rankings, etc. Shout out Primetime DFS for the membership. Again, the winner, reach out to info@chippination.com. Weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual packages. all available on the website. Good stuff, Big Marley. Let's win some money tomorrow. Let's see some Shipping Nation logos up top. For my man, Big Marley, I'm Titletown. Be safe. Good luck, everybody.